Daniel Beatty, welcome back to the Pre-Construction Podcast.
All right, Gareth, it's good to see you. It's been about a year or so.
It does, and I was joking off air that you're looking younger since last year.
Absolutely. I'm aging in reverse.
Law.
Absolutely.
Bottle that up and sell it, please. But great to have you back. Anybody that doesn't know Daniel, Daniel's already been on the podcast, did a brilliant episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. Really, really good. To give you an idea, 36-year veteran of the heavy civil infrastructure space, but now has taken the leap of faith into entrepreneurship. Tell us about it, Daniel. Tell us how the last year and a bit has been.
Well, I tell you, I my career is kind of in three stages. I like to think in terms of three acts, maybe, like with a play or something like that. So in the beginning, I was all about field work, project management, project engineer, where the rubber meets the road, get in there and make things happen. And then babies came along, and I thought, you know what, having a more realistic time day, to get home and see them made sense. So I kind of shifted gears over into estimating because I was asked to help put a bid together, and I found out, wow, I really like this. This is it works with my detailed oriented self. And then after having done estimating for about 25 years or so, I realized I watched the industry kind of change from when I started, which was more or less like the Wild West. The safety wasn't even really a big deal at the time when I got started. And I watched how the industry grew, technology came a part of it, and what have you. And I felt like there were some gaps.
Yeah.
There were some things that I wanted to see change, with how people were treated or how people were onboarded or how people's careers developed. And what I came to realize is that what I probably should have been doing my entire career is to be that of a teacher or a coach. And I decided to take a leap of faith earlier this year. I just decided, I'm going to move into doing the thing that I have been thinking about and studying about for many years, why people do what they do and what have you. So again, I took the leap of faith and I decided, I want to do two things. I want to teach people the technical left brain kind of skills that I have honed over the years in estimating and project management and things of that nature. But also, I want to do the right brain sort of things, the creativity, the hey, we should all communicate a little bit better. We should try to lead and become the kind of a leader that people want to work for, as opposed to some sort of command and control individual. So that's what gave me the impetus to do it. And I think I needed to have enough years and enough breadth of knowledge to feel confident enough to give it a shot.
Brilliant. And here we are, Constructive Leadership Solutions, bridging the gap. And that's what you're doing now on a day-to-day basis for a number of clients all over the US. But what we want to discuss today, and we're going to get in for anybody listening and whether what we're going to discuss throughout the project, I want to discuss something close to my heart that you've mentioned numerous times on LinkedIn, and that is the importance of middle management within construction companies, but specifically pre-construction estimating divisions. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss strategy. We're going to discuss recruitment, retention, and development of teams at all levels, whether it's junior or whether it's senior or really competent people. And then we're going to discuss communication and we're going to pivot throughout. So, from the beginning, middle management, Daniel, from all of your experience, how important is middle management within a construction firm?
Well, in my humble opinion, they are the linchpin,
Yeah.
basically, because what middle management does, and when you say middle management, let's use it in a construction company, it would be maybe the project manager or the superintendent, or in a pre-construction situation, maybe it is the senior estimator or even the estimating manager. They're the person that is holding everything together. They're communicating laterally with their peers. They're communicating vertically with upper management, the people that are setting the course of the whole company. And then they're also communicating with the people that are on their team that are trying to make it happen. So, with that kind of responsibility, the middle manager has to be kind of a translator, if you will. They have to translate the vision of the upper management is like, well, this is the direction of the company and this is why we're going to do this. They have to take that, distill it in a easily understandable way to the people that they're leading. All right. And then conversely, you got to take the people that you're leading and their concerns and their abilities and their development and give that information to the people on the top so that they understand the people that are actually making things happen out there, what they are all about. So it's an incredibly important position, and it's one that is often overlooked because, frankly, the middle managers are so busy that they can't even advocate for themselves a lot of times.
Yeah, and your humble experience, and you've seen a lot. You've worked with a lot of incredible companies. You now out on your own are dealing with companies day in day out. What are the key traits that really successful middle managers have? What are they good at, and what makes a middle manager exceptional?
Well, I think that the one skill, it's not even a skill. It's an innate thing. It's do you have empathy? Do you know how to put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Empathy is different from sympathy in that all it means is I can understand where you're coming from. I think that's an incredibly necessary skill. And plus the ability to communicate, the ability to take things that are complex and break them down into easier bite-sized pieces. If you have those kind of things, that's fantastic. And then the other thing, a middle manager, whether it's themselves or who they're trying to hire, you hire for integrity. You hire for culture. You can train somebody in a skill, but you can't really teach somebody integrity or honesty or good character. And so I would start there. Someone of good, solid character and somebody who understands people and cares about them.
Yeah, and I mean that isn't in everyone. The one thing that I see, and we touched on it before recording, right, is you've got a team of five estimators. Generally, the best estimator gets promoted to be estimating manager. Now, we all know, and I hope the estimators don't get too upset when I say it, but generally, the best estimators are quite introverted and very, 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 very good at the detail and like working alone as well. The best
Right.
managers and middle management, from what you're saying, need to have good empathy and unbelievable ability to communicate up,
Yes.
down, sideways.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you're describing, it's not only in the estimating pre-construction world, you'll see it at the field level too. You've got the best carpenter on the crew and you want to promote them to foreman, but you didn't bother to teach them how to lead people.
Yeah.
That is a completely different skill set. And the unfortunate thing, whether you're talking about in the field or whether you're talking about in the estimating office, that particular piece of the training puzzle isn't used all that often. It seems like, in my experience, companies are a lot more willing to train people in hard skills. Like, all right, we're going to send you and we're going to teach you how to use Bluebeam and how to use ag tech and all the different softwares. And oh my gosh, here comes AI. And if we don't get on top of that, we're going to be in, a terrible state. Okay, great. Those are easily low-hanging fruit, in my opinion. The harder thing to do is how do you train somebody to teach? How do you train somebody to give their knowledge and move it on to the next generation? How do you have somebody communicate, show empathy, and do all of the things that a good leader does? That's where I try to so-called fill in the gap because there is an ROI. involved in doing that. If you've got a leader that people want to follow, then you're not going to have as much turnover. You're not going to have people that decide to leave your company because people don't leave companies because they're not making enough money necessarily or things like that. They leave companies because of the way they're being managed. And more oftentimes, they don't understand what their place is in it. They don't understand the mission or the vision of the company or why they're even doing what they're doing. And focusing on those skills and on those concepts will really pay big dividends, in my opinion.
And listen, there's people that I've met that are just natural leaders. They just ooze confidence and their the ability to get someone's attention and bring them on their journey. How difficult is it to teach leadership, and how long does it take? Is it a quick win? Is it something that needs to be managed or taught in over 6, 12 months?
Well, again, there is no one size fits all for something like this. The main thing is when you talk about leadership and you throw out that term a lot, or we throw it out a lot, what leadership is how influential are you? Are you able to influence someone? Doesn't mean you have to be super persuasive necessarily or be a salesman of some sort, although frankly, we all are salespeople in one way or another. Leadership is you can teach somebody how to influence someone else by helping them understand what people's motivations are, why people do what they do. And if you give a person a strong enough why, it's like our vision, our mission. If you give them a strong enough one, then you can kind of work together to figure out the how you're going to get there, the pieces, the parts. As far as how long it would take, I start personally with the communication piece. I start with, hey, let's understand what it feels like to be on the other side of our voice, right? Because a lot of us don't have self-awareness in that regard. I don't know what I sound like. A lot of people, especially somewhat, now you do all these podcasts, and I'm sure you've listened to yourself on several of them. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Garrett, but maybe sometimes you look at a podcast and say, oh my God, I can't believe I sounded like that. Is that my voice? Do I, and why did I say that? Oh my God. It's that kind of thing. So the first thing I try to do is let's put a mirror up in front of you and see whether you got broccoli in your teeth. Because all of us have broccoli in our teeth. It's like we present ourselves to the world in a certain way. So that's where I start with it. It's like, hey, let's figure out how we sound and do some self-reflection and understand what our motivations are. And then once you're able to know yourself, well, then you can lead yourself. You got to have that self-awareness. And until you do that, you can't lead somebody else. So, it's like the old worn out metaphor of, hey, when you're on the plane and the oxygen mask falls, you put yours on first and then you help the person next to you. It's the same kind of thing. Understand who you are and what motivates you. What are your tendencies? What are the things that you do to get the results that you get? And then once you have that realization, well, now we can figure out how to set up a plan so that you get the results that you want.
Very good. Yeah. And again, it's called the Pre-Construction Podcast. There's nobody in the industry that needs to have that self-awareness or that ability to sell than pre-construction managers, because we're always selling, whether to be a sub, whether to be a client, architect, designer. It's a real difficult, high pressure. You've been in there. You know what it's like. Do you think as companies we're able to, as construction companies or as an industry, companies are able to sell themselves well enough?
Well, what they need to do, once again, whether it's an individual or whether it's a company, is to first and foremost understand who they are and why they exist. What is it that you try to build? I tell this story sometimes when I do talks. I worked for a company many years ago who was trying to do or figure that out, what their vision statement was. And so we all met in this big room, had a facilitator, you had people from the C-suite all the way to field people, operations, HR, what have you. And we were all trying to figure it out. And the facilitator gave us a great idea. She said, think of one of the best vision statements ever, which was when President Kennedy, during his inauguration in 1960, said, by the end of this decade, we will put a man on the moon. And that's a beautiful vision statement, right? So
Wow.
everybody in the industrial military complex said, well, this is what we've got to do. And by God, in 1969, we put a man on the moon. So in that room, we were trying to figure out, well, why do we do what we do? And I was sitting at a table with foremen and superintendents and project managers. And I just simply asked them a question. I was like, why did you get into the construction business in the first place? And to a person, they all said, we like building. We like driving by things that we had something to do with to create that, right? And so when I stood up, when it came to be our table's turn to talk, I just said, folks, our vision is we like to build cool stuff. Now, that wasn't their official vision statement, but that's the in essence
Yeah.
why companies exist. So how well do they sell it? It depends on how well they understand why they do what they do.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to the communication piece. So if you're trying to recruit, retain, or develop talent, and you haven't got that understanding of what you do, it's very hard to get people to join you, get people to stay, or to make people want to get better to achieve the mission.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you something else that I've learned in some of my studies. I'm going to advocate for a gentleman that wrote a book called The Death of Demographics. His name is David Allison. And he basically said that people are influenced more by their values and whether you have overlapping values as opposed to, things that are superficial, like what age we are or what race we are or anything like that. It's why do we do what we do and what do we value? And in their extensive research across the board, but specifically for the construction industry, did research and found out that the top two values of the people that are usually in the construction business are that of service and of belonging. And so when you stop and think about that, it's like service. What's that all about? Well, why do we build? We build because we need roads, we need bridges, we need hospitals, we need schools. And the people that are part of that, that are helping create that, if you can tap into that innate feeling in your gut that says, I am doing something important for society. I'm doing something that is going to matter and that is going to live on beyond me and my life. That's pretty powerful. And if companies tap into that feeling, that's how you attract.
Yeah.
That's how you retain, right? Stay with doing something meaningful and powerful. And I think
Wow.
that would be the way to go.
Interesting. And is that, do you see that now that you're out consulting with your own company, do you see that a lot of construction companies, just big and small, mid-sized companies, they're struggling with that kind of identity and that value?
I would say so. I would say so because a lot of times, when a company gets started, what was the reasoning? Well, if you talk about smaller companies, maybe it was just a really, really good superintendent and an estimator. And the two of them decided, you know what, we're really good at this. Let's start our own company. And they're working hard and they're chugging away and they're trying to get business and they're doing bids and things of that nature. And then did they stop and think about, hey, I think that we are building something important in this world and I want to really focus on that. No, they're probably just thinking, how do I make payroll? How do I get this taken care of and deal with this particular owner who is unbelievably difficult? There are so many different moving parts and pieces and things like that that it's difficult from my standpoint as a consultant to say, you've got to stop for just a second and really focus on why you exist and why you do what you do. See, it takes time, Gareth. It takes it takes reflection and things of that nature. And most of us in a society that is easily distracted and walks around with these things all day, I don't know if you can see that, my cell phone. Um, you know, who takes the time to reflect?
It's funny,
Well,
it's funny, Daniel, right? Nobody, the answer is nobody, right? And nobody's got the time
correct.
to do anything to get better. But one opportunity we had in our generation was COVID. COVID, I'm not going to say that the time stood still, but for a lot of people, they had a lot more time on it. From COVID, I saw a lot of good things come out of companies. I saw a lot of young construction companies being pre-construction services. There's that word again, service. Pre-construction services focused, picking up a lot of work, and then a lot of bigger companies concentrated on delivery on the service. To me, that's what separates and that's what pushes legacy companies is the delivery service, obviously through pre-construction as well, but the younger companies that are killing it
Absolutely.
is their service towards architects and owners and designers.
Absolutely. And the other good thing that I'm seeing, and by the way, you brought up a good point about COVID. During COVID, the construction industry was deemed essential, and construction projects still happened during the pandemic. That ought to tell you something about how important our industry is. But the other great thing that I've seen is that the younger generation, more and more of them, are actually becoming attracted to the trades. They see that, you know what, I do not have to go and get a 4-year degree. I can begin right out of high school and I can become an apprentice. I can learn a very important skill. And if I work hard, I could have my own company someday and make six figures and do all of these things. And I think more and more of the younger generation are seeing the value of that. They don't want to be $150,000 in debt with a degree that may or may not get them a decent job. They're finding, you know what? This is an actual career that I can focus on and get really great at.
And it's
It's good to
funny
see.
you say that. I think we're in an unbelievable kind of position construction is right now, where AI is replacing a lot of the tech stuff, whether that be in financial services, whether it be in pharma, whether it be in light manufacturing, whether it be in IT, and we see it with all the layoffs. Construction's in that beautiful arena now where you can't teach tech to use their hands or to do what we do. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I just hope that a lot of people take it now, whether they're out of high school, because in 10 or 15 years, it could be one of the only industries left.
Well, I agree with you. I hopefully it's not quite that dystopian, but one of the things that is good for me to see is that I can see it at the ground level somewhat because I last year I was able to volunteer for Skills USA in the Virginia chapter,
Shout out to
and it was
Skills US.
fantastic. They met and they had all of these booths set up where these young people were creating in a competition setting, right? And I was in the carpentry section, but there was masonry, there was electrical, there were all of these different things. And the place was full of energy and people that were excited about what they were doing. And there were large companies there offering jobs on the site. I mean, it was really quite impressive. And I encourage anybody listening to this podcast to volunteer with that organization because they do some really cool things.
Here, here. Yeah, we can't get enough people into the skills. So talk to me now, Daniel. As you say, you've gone out on your own this year. What is the biggest challenge that you see when you go into these construction companies to consult? What is the, or even you could give us the top three.
Mm. Well, first of all, is convincing them that the focus and the self-awareness piece that we talked about already is worth taking the time and effort of doing, because everybody's got their hair on fire, those of us that. And so that is one thing that's difficult to get over. The other piece is, and I think that's why what I'm doing is becoming more successful is that I take a holistic approach. It's like I'm not just focused on that communication and influential side, although I think it's very important. I also recognize, you know what? You have a problem to solve. All right. You don't have estimators. You don't have enough to do what you want doing, right? I'm still contacted by recruiters all the time to see if I'll, come back and do it. And I'm like, no, but what I can do is take people that maybe you already have on staff and help make them an estimator,
Yeah.
right? And I think that there is a nice market niche there for, hey, you know what? As long as a person has the right mindset, skills can be taught.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from. That's why I said earlier, hey, hire for integrity, train for skills.
Yeah.
And that's the gap that I try to figure out, which is if you want to be an estimator, here's one thing. You talked about the personality of sometimes being in a silo and maybe difficult in communication. While that is probably quite true, the other piece that you have to have as an estimator is being really comfortable with failing 9 out of 10 times.
Yes.
That's tough. When
Yeah.
you work your butt off and everything that you did, but as Nelson Mandela says, I never lose. I either win or I learn.
Brilliant.
So
I
you got to
love it.
have that mindset.
And just to touch on what you just described about bringing people into estimating, we're seeing a huge shift in that. A lot of the high performing operations folks are now moving into or estimating and pre-construction,
Mhm.
and they're adding better value to the project because they're getting in early.
Oh, absolutely. And I am a strong believer. It was in my own career. I didn't set out to do it that way. It just kind of worked out. But you start with operations. Understand how to build before you estimate. I don't think it's really in the best interest of a company to take a person directly out of school and say, bang, you're an estimator without them having spent time in the field. I don't think it works that well unless you do that.
Yeah, you need to have a really robust learning management system for that to work. The other thing is if you take someone and rotate them as a field engineer, project engineer, APM, I think that works really well, and it just basically opens up the options for the person as well.
Right. Gareth, that also brings up to mind the other thing about when you talk about retention and bringing people into the company. The way you onboard someone is critical to whether they're going to stay or not. I
Yeah,
don't think enough emphasis is given to how people are brought into a company. It's usually, all right, we just hired you. You're going to have a week with HR and you're going to watch a bunch of videos and here are some manuals and then go see so and so and do what they do.
yeah,
That's not onboarding. That's just, hey, here, I overuse this metaphor, but I'm sorry. We'll throw you in the deep end of the pool and we'll see if you can swim.
yeah,
That doesn't work. You've got to give people a pathway, a roadmap that says, man, we are so glad you're here. This is the company's culture. We believe in this. We have these sets of values, and this is our mission. And we believe, because we vetted you very strongly, you align with those things. And so now that you're a part of us, we are going to give you the support you need in order to be successful. Not only for yourself, but if you're successful, obviously we are, right? A lot of times people either give high challenge or high support, right? A lot of times they don't do the same thing. So if you think about a situation where you've got a company and it's only high challenge, but we don't give you any support, well, that's the top down, dominating thing. It's like you just do what I say and I'm not going to help you that much. Or you have the Uber support side, which is, oh, I'm going to take care of you and I'll do everything for you and you don't have to lift a finger. Well, then you got a group of people that feel entitled or checked out, and so they're not interested. You got to have a balance. You got to have a balance of, hey, listen, I'm going to ask a lot of you, but you know what else? I'm going to break my neck to support you as well. That's where you get the best results.
Wow, I love that. What a way to finish. And that's what you will get with constructive leadership solutions. So, if there's
Absolutely.
anybody listening to this saying, you know what Daniel described there now, we need that in a part of our business. Where's the best place to get in touch with you?
I would say, my website is constructiveleadershipsolutions.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I have a weekly newsletter that's called Culture Under Construction, which has been doing pretty well. And I would just look up my name, Dan Beatty, Beatty, on LinkedIn. And maybe in the show notes or something like that, Gareth, you could give him my QR code or whatever. But those are the two easiest ways is
Love it.
a website or on LinkedIn because I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, a lot of interaction. And I mean, as a matter of fact, I got one of my best clients from my newsletter. They really
Brilliant.
liked what I was saying and they said, hey, you know what? Can we have lunch? And then we talked about, what their ideas were, maybe some succession planning, some training, this and that. And it was a great fit. So thank you for asking, Gareth. But that's the main way that I have been reaching people.
There you are. Sign up for the newsletter. I will put all information in the show notes below, website, LinkedIn link, and email address. And I'm sure we will be able to get you somehow. Daniel Beatty, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Looking forward to round three, possibly not as long as a year away.
Well, that would be great. And Gareth, whether you find yourself in Northern Virginia where I am, or I find myself you are in New York still, right?
Yeah, in Manhattan, the big city.
All right. Well, then we need to share a pint of Guinness sometime.
Oh, now we're talking. You have me sold. I look forward to that, Daniel. Thanks again.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
See you soon.